Hello, my name's Ian Seeger from Pilot Career News. On the 6th and 7th of November, we held our very first virtual edition of Pilot Careers Live. We streamed over 30 different seminars with 60 speakers. There were 2 days packed full of great information. Of course, we recorded everything, and you're about to watch one of the videos from the event. Before you do, I just want to thank our sponsors, Bose, Alsim, Entro, and of course Pulis. Without them and without the exhibitors, it wouldn't be possible. The exhibitor pages are still live, so feel free to head on over there, go to www.pilotcareerslive.com and click through to the exhibitors. There's loads of information, loads of downloads, all sorts of great stuff there for you. Anyway, enjoy the video, and if you find it useful, really appreciate it if you click subscribe on our YouTube channel. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello and welcome to the last session for Pilot Careers Live Virtual Edition 1. We're coming to the end of 2 days packed full of absolutely fantastic presentations that we've had from all sorts of specialists. It's just been huge amounts of information, and thanks to the wonders of YouTube, at some stage in the future, and in fact now you'll be able to see most of it in the on-demand section, but soon you'll be able to see it all in the on-demand section. So this is information that's going to be there and still useful to you for ages. Looking at my screen, I can see there's already huge numbers of questions that we picked up through the day, which we'll try and address in the last Q&A session a little bit later. But if we don't get a chance to address them in the Q&A session, then please feel free to pop over to the exhibitor stands where you can jump on live chat and talk to them, book video calls. Almost all of the exhibitors can answer almost all of the questions, and if you need, I would even suggest that asking the same question to several exhibitors and getting the different feedback so you can understand it and begin to build a picture. So this last session is called Life After Training. Is there life after training? Well, clearly there is, and clearly at the moment that's a very different life. So we're going to look at different things and see how people deal with life after training, how ATOs deal with the life after training, how do they make sure that people stay in touch, how do they help people through that gap between the end of training and the time they get their first job, whether that be a technical skill, whether that be a legal requirement to keep a rating current, or whether that be a kind of a human side of things, how to stop people drifting away from aviation and keeping them engaged. So welcome and hello everybody, how are you all doing?
Hello, fine, thank you.
Greece.
Thank you very much. And I can see Petter there. Des, how you doing, Des, in the sim?
How are you? Very well, thanks.
I'm good, thanks. Nuno, how are you in Spain? Excellent.
Hello.
Hello, and we have Karen Barth, who co-host, but at the moment she's wearing her Resilient Pilot hat. I believe
indeed,
that's true.
yeah.
Resilient.
I've kind of changed hats in case you haven't noticed. So yeah, here with Resilient Pilot now.
I guess we've seen most of you, but a lot of people wouldn't have seen every single session yet. I don't know why people wouldn't have spent the whole 2 days looking at this, but some people may have had other stuff to do, I don't know. So if we could just quickly nip round and you could give me a quick 30-second introduction to who you are. So starting at my top, Nuno, who are you and where do you come from?
I am the Chief Theoretical Knowledge Instructor at Bartolini here in Poland. I am indeed from Portugal, not Spain. Let's just make that very clear. And I hope I can help shed some light on life after training.
I'm sorry.
You're forgiven, this one.
Thank you very much. Petter, the Norwegian.
Not getting anything right today. Yes.
I know.
So, Petter, Swedish, living in Spain, working as a line training captain, type rating instructor, type rating examiner for a major European airline since the last 18 years, and also running a little YouTube channel called Mentour Pilots.
Fantastic, thank you very much. Des, I know where you are, I'm not even going to guess.
Yeah, well, we're in a brand new ATO 72600
simulator, which arrived in Dublin during COVID and got certified 2 weeks ago. So my name is Wynne. I'm the sales director for Simtech Aviation in Dublin, Ireland. We're an MCC jock, APS MCC provider, and a type rating provider in Dublin, Ireland.
Thank you very much. Philip.
Good afternoon, Ian. Philip Smyth with the Atlantic Flight Training Base in Cork in Ireland. I'm the safety manager with AFTA, and I'm also multi-engine instructor, and I'm an authorized flight examiner with the IAA. My aviation background, my commercial aviation background then is in flying Embraer aircraft. And we're based in Cork, and we're fully authorized and a busy ATO.
Fantastic, thank you. And not finally, sorry, I nearly forgot. Marios.
Okay, I'm former head of training of global aviation in Athens, Greece, ATO. Now I'm the compliance manager. And of course, I resigned from the position of head of training because I'm the accountable manager of an airline operating Boeing 737, TRI, TRE, and also, of course, general aviation training is something that I have. So I want to involve to this, not to go only for commercial, not operating as commercial pilot. So I'm keeping my join to global as compliance manager.
Fantastic, thank you. And Karen, with your resilient pilot hat.
My resilient pilot hat on. So yes, hello everybody, I'm Karen Bath, now here as resilient pilot, co-founded Resilient Pilot in April of this year. I come from an independent background. I worked for a number of ATOs over the last 20 plus years, but certainly in an independent position here now. And Resilient Pilot is about providing a mentoring and support service, keeping pilots supported, current and connected during this period of COVID.
Thank you very much. So I'd like to try and move this session forward by looking at various different aspects of the life after training, if you like. So I realise that that's a kind of slightly false construct, because for an airline pilot, clearly training never really stops. But training in this context, we're talking about someone who's got their ATPL, CPLIR, ME, done their APS MCC. Or MCC, but you know, maybe not got onto type rating just yet. So the kind of initial basic ab initio training, if you like. Starting again at the top, Nuno. Unfortunately, the times we live in, there's no use pretending. You know, it's Saturday today. On Monday, there isn't a pilot shortage. It's going to take people a little while to get a job. To get an aviation job. So for people graduating now or graduating in the future before the COVID recovery, whenever that happens, and we all hope that it's soon and swift, but none of us really know when it's going to be, frankly. What can you suggest to people to stay current and stay engaged?
Well, that is the tough question right now, actually. Thing is, there's, as you said, there's something people have to keep in their minds, and this is very important. Staying current, and we were actually discussing this just before the session started. Staying current and just having your ratings valid are two very different things. Yes. One thing is having a license and having a date in there that says up to this date you can perform this action, be it fly multi-engine, flying instruments, whatever it is. And another one is being able to do it proficiently and most importantly safely. And this is something that's people finish training through no fault of their own. I mean, they just got terribly unlucky. They started their training, say, 2 years ago. They are finishing now when things just really did not go anyone's way. It's very, very important to try and stay current as much as possible. The way to do this, there are a number of things that people can do. First one is to start looking at the least traditional or the less traditional aspects of aviation. People usually think of aviation as, I will go fly a big jet, I will fly 737 and A320. In 10 years, I'll be in a 777 somewhere, maybe. But it's important to look at all the other things that will help people maybe get a job. Maybe it's not a very well-paid job, but at least something that will put food on the table and keep your current ratings current. There are many examples. There's you could be doing aerial photography, for example. There is the tried and true flight instructor as well. A lot of people go into instructing. However, as fun as it may be, I'm an instructor myself. Most of the people in this panel are as well. As fun as it may be, once you begin, you're not going to be flying IR, for example, which is something you need to keep current to go fly for an airline later. So there's all those things. I will maybe not hog the whole conversation like the others, give their input a bit as well.
Okay, Des, it seems to me that you're pretty well placed for this kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely. So I suppose I fully agree what Bartolini said there. There is a big difference on keeping your license current and keeping currency. But not everyone can afford to do that, or their funds may be limited. So put yourself in the airline's perspective. There's the average time from a cadet pilot coming out of flight school to getting a job is somewhere between 6 and 12 months in a normal pre-COVID scenario. We're now looking at probably somewhere between 12 and 24 months, and that'll become the norm probably for the next year or two. So what can the cadet do to keep in aviation? And this is really, really important. They have to, when hiring airlines, and at Simtech, we would do hiring and assessments for various airlines here. But so when they're interviewing, the panel is interviewing you, they'd ask you, okay, well, what do you do outside of aviation? Someone says, I work in a bank or whatever. It's just not good enough. They have to be demonstrating to the assessor that as soon as they left flight school, they got straight into aviation, whatever that is. If that means you're marshalling at a local airfield, at a grass strip at the weekends, do it, put it on the CV. But what they don't want to see is someone coming off the out of flight school and just stopping aviation completely and not validating their licenses or at minimum validating their licenses. The other side of things I would say to you is keeping in touch with the ATO. And remember, from the ATO's point of view, you are a salesperson for them. So you have to make sure that the cadet has a fabulous time at your training academy, and then B, that they tell everyone that they've had a fabulous time. And the only way to do that is support them post course. So keep in touch with them. There's a lot of times, like we would have in our MCC courses here, uneven groups, and we give a course away, I would say once or twice a month, completely for free. And that keeps guys, they've got another 40 hours into the logbook of multi-crew time, multi-crew training time. And most ATOs, any decent ATOs will do that. And they're totally open to it, because you're getting rid of one of their headaches, that having to try to pair everyone. The other element I would say is keep in touch, because you've completed your ATPL exams, it doesn't mean you have to forget it. And during airline assessments, you will be asked the questions, so you can't let that go out of your mind. So keep refreshing your ATPL theory. Learn your question banks, do everything just to keep yourself current with regards to theory. So when you are asked the question and your future is down to one interview and someone asks you a question about GNAV and you don't know the answer, you don't want to look like a fool here. So that's what I'd be saying to you. The other element I would say is, start doing online assessments. Companies like CUTE or CUTE, the company, you can buy subscriptions to them to start doing training for airline assessments in advance. You're going to have a lot of time here after flight school. So you can start preparing in advance, and it's a 7P rule. Prior preparation planning prevents possible poor performance. Everyone learns that in aviation. So start preparing for the interview to make sure that you do not poorly perform on the day.
Philip, I've got a story about that which I may come back to if there's enough time. But in the meantime, Philip, have you got any input on from AFTA's point of view?
Absolutely, yeah. I think that listen to Des's comments. We're certainly singing off the same page in terms of what they've got to do. The graduates have to maintain currency. To that end, under ordinary circumstances, when our graduates leave us, we don't leave them out the door with their new licenses. We keep them on board to go through a kind of development plan, professional development plan, to help them to enhance their HR skills and their technical knowledge, refresh in advance of being called for assessments with airlines. So we still do that, but with the gap now between graduation and job placement going to be extended, we also run continuous refresher sessions on their ATPLs. They get deep back into the back of their memories and pull all the information back again, and just give them a kind of to prompt them to keep going with their refresh on their ATPLs, because they do tend to kind of forget that in time. The other thing we're doing as well too is that we provide every 3 months we provide a free sim a day session in the sim for the graduates who've completed the APS MCC. So we give them a full day, free day with sessions of a combination of pilot flying and pilot monitoring as well too, just to, again, to help them to maintain their skills. So I think that, as ATOs, we have a huge responsibility generally to make sure that we look after their welfare in the sense of keeping them current and keeping in touch with them. And it's also an opportunity for them to kind of keep a finger on the pulse with what's going on in the business, because as somebody mentioned in a previous session, that apart from what the who is also an important element as well too. So to keep your name in lights all the time and getting a chance to meet people and getting feedback and intelligence and stuff like that. So there's that to it. I know that Nuno made reference to the instructor rating as well too, and certainly we've seen a huge uptake in people signing up for instructor rating courses recently. And traditionally, if you go back in this industry many years ago, long before the airlines were taking people directly out of flight school, invariably people are going through instructor rating courses, first of all, because they wanted to build up hours, etc. And that seems to be coming back in now to a certain extent as well. But that comes with its own merits as well too, because apart from building up hours, there is also a significant element of MCC as an instructor as well too, you know, cooperating with your student on the flight deck. And you're also building up your leadership skills as well too. So that's another aspect that seems to be very important. And the other thing where possible, and something we do, is that we're affiliated with the university in Cork for a degree course that they can do at the end of their pilot training. So what it consists of is it's a 2-year course where they end up with a degree in business aviation aspects. And the beauty of it is it's an online course. So whether they're actually in full-time employment or whether they're not, they still have the opportunity to study in their spare time and get that add-on, that bolted-on degree as well too. So again, it's another aspect where they're enhancing their qualifications and also keeping in touch with the industry as well.
Thank you. Karen, in terms of Resilient Pilot, does Resilient, most of the members, I guess you call them, of Resilient Pilot, are they working pilots who are no longer working, or do you have many people who are sort of between the training and the first job?
A whole cross section. So we're there for pilots, whatever stage, whether they're considering training, in training, just graduated, awaiting first job, still flying. There's a lot of pilots who are concerned about their futures, so still flying, and those who have been furloughed and made redundant. And to continue on from what the guys have been saying, from our perspective, that our main focus is that we have a team of volunteer mentors who are pilots from all sorts of different backgrounds right across Europe and actually beyond now, who will provide a free mentoring service for people. So it's another way of staying connected, talking to somebody who is in the industry, and being able to sort of keep the language going, keep the lingo going, but also just set some objectives for yourself and then help get that mentor to help you achieve those objectives with various. We can signpost different resources and things to help people stay connected. And the currency piece, you know, the currency piece is important as well. So a lot of the good ATOs are providing great packages to help people stay current. But if your ATO wasn't for any reason, then we've got a program that we've put together which manages to keep the cost as low as possible. But we're also putting on free webinars, and we're going to be doing some free specific webinars on technical subject matter and things like that, just again to help people stay connected and keep the hand in.
Fantastic, thank you. Petra, I'll be with you in just a second, but just before we get to that part, Marios, how about global, and how do you handle the gap between the end of ab initio training and the beginning of the first job?
Actually, we're doing more or less the same, but we developed lastly the Global Aviation Solidarity Program. This created to assist pilots and cabin crew members as well to keep their rating current. So actually, we have 2 or 3 groups of this kind of trainees. We have the already rated pilots, those that they are close to finish, to complete their training, and those that just starting the training and postponed due to this situation. So we're trying to assist all of them. The most complicated is for those that already finished, already they found a job, and now they lost their job, or maybe their job postponed for the future. All of them, because they were our students, so we feel that we have to support them. We have good connection with some airlines in Greece, as my airline, Air Mediterranean or Bluebird Airways, and Aegean Airline, and we're trying to send them to the simulator, to keep their currency in the simulator, in the operational environment that they know already, because it's different in the training environment and different in the actual operating airline environment. So for this, we're trying every 3 months to send them in a simulator, keeping a close contact with these airlines. For the rest, we are following exactly the same method. MCC, an operational environment. In our simulator, we have 5 FMPT2s. 2 of them is like the Airbus I have seen there. And keeping their currency using the MCC course and the advanced MCC course in a regular time for each one.
Thank you. Petter, you're not an ATO. You're well known for under your name of Mentor Pilot. You have a very popular YouTube channel, and you have an awful lot of live streams where you're talking to lots of aspiring pilots. So you talk to an awful lot of these people. What's your insight, and what advice do you offer these people post training and pre first job?
Yeah. So obviously, all of the points that have already been raised are valid points, and I'm also working, as I mentioned in my previous live stream here, working together with Andy O'Shea on the Airline Pilot Club, where we are trying to organize people both before they start the training, but also after they finish their training, so that they have this crucial kind of connection into the industry. It's already been mentioned here before that it is really important to kind of keep your finger on the pulse, and that's something that I also really recommend. I'm really happy to hear from both Bartolini and AFTA, which are partners to the Airline Pilot Club, that they have this view as well. I think especially the 3 months between each session, make sure that you have some kind of currency going at least every third month, because that's what you need minimum in order to kind of stay current and on top of your MCC skills. But something that haven't been mentioned, and something that I frequently tell people on my channel as well, is that, like Des was saying, that it's really important that you kind of get yourself into an aviation related occupation, even if it's not as a pilot. That's good. And if you can find something like that, that is great. Obviously, it's going to look very good on your CV. However, the reality is that since the industry is on a global downturn right now, the amount of pushback jobs, the amount of people who can work on the airport, for example, is going to be limited as well. But from the airline's point of view, generally speaking, and me as an instructor, what you're looking for in a new pilot, or any pilot really, is that they have the fundamental pilot competencies, that they know about teamwork, communication, situational awareness, and these kind of things, they can be found in any job that you do. You just have to make sure that whatever you do, that you realize which part of this job it is, where you can kind of show in an airline interview later on that, listen, I have been working on my teamwork skills because I've been a manager in McDonald's. And when I was a manager in McDonald's, I was working with my team in this way. This relates to my skills as an airline pilot in this way. Because I think that any airline that will start to hire after a slump like this will obviously know that it's been a really hard time, and they will be looking for smart answers from these people. So even if they haven't worked as a flight instructor or on an airport as an airport firefighter, whatever it might be, as long as they have kept those pilot competencies up and they know that that's what they need to be kind of concentrating on, that is going to be valued a lot. When I went for my interview for my airline back in the day, they asked me, so what do you do that is not aviation related? And I said, well, I'm a football, I'm a soccer umpire, for example. Oh, really? So how did you get into that? And you have to kind of start to explain how you were thinking about that from a leadership point of view, or what led you into that. So these kind of things, providing that you know that you're working towards an airline job, and that you know what the competencies are, and that you keep working on them together with working with your ATOs, like AFTA, like Bartolini, for example, that's going to take you, hopefully bridge you over to when it's time for that first crucial interview, and keep obviously current with, for example, that the type that you've done your training on, making sure that you know the technical systems, you keep knowing them, that you are on top of your ATPL theory, because all of this, there will be questions that will be coming for you.
Yes, thank you. So, let's just, none of us know when the airline industry is going to recover. So let's just pick a random spot of 2 years, in 2 years in the future. Let's say there's hiring on in 2 years in the future, and people beginning their training today will probably be more or less job ready in 2 years. So in 2 years, they're going to be hopefully at the top of their training game. The ATPL knowledge will be fresh, their instrument flying skills will be fresh, they maybe just come out of an APS MCC, so their teamwork stuff will be. Yeah. If you have those 2 years now for those skills, if you're not careful to atrophy a little bit, what are the key elements of keeping those current? I mean, and should you know, is if you're on
we can't hear you.
I lost the connection.
I think it's just the guys at PCL, yeah.
Yeah,
I think so.
I can hear all of you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah. The live.
Something's happening. They're checking.
okay.
Oh,
Hello.
They're back.
Yeah, okay.
Not quite sure. I just need to check to see if we're still going out live. Is anyone out there?
are we still live, Alvin?
Yes.
Good.
Yes,
We're here.
Yeah.
I have some problems. I can hear you very well. In
Okay.
any case.
Okay, I'll try and speak louder or slowly. So I'm gonna assume that we're still going out and carry on with that question. So if you have I guess my question is, if you're working with limited resources in terms of your physical flying ability, should you? Is it little and often that it's best, or do you save up some money and then binge session in a sim or something in the weeks leading up to an interview?
There's an element of working smart. I was thinking this morning, driving out to Simtech here, how people, if the cash flow is low, how can you spread the cost? There's a lot of other cadet pilots in the exact same position. So if you join an air club and you hire an aircraft, you could go as a passenger and fly the approach on paper and train that way. And maybe you do one leg and your friend does the other leg. And instead of paying 140, 150 pounds an hour for the aircraft rental, it's only costing you half. So get into your network of classmates who have also completed and split the cost between everyone. There'll be deals to be done as well with hiring simulators and hiring aircraft, because as I said before, the ATO needs you to succeed, and they want you to succeed, because you'll tell all your friends and they'll end up going to your ATO because they've had a fantastic experience and you've supported them. So absolutely, just don't stop what you're doing. You keep flying, keep the propellers turning, keep the sims turning on, and talk to your ATO and see what deals they can give you. The sims aren't as busy as they used to be. The aircraft aren't as busy as they used to be. So there will be deals to be had.
Thank you, Philip. How would you advise spreading a limited budget more efficiently, as it were?
Yeah, as I said earlier, I think and the comment was made previously in another session, that it's sometimes not watching over who you know, and I think that it's a case of, if you can just keep in as regular contact with the ATO as you can, and even if it's not with the ATO, to try and get as much flying done as you can. And I think maybe it is better maybe to spread it out rather than sort of save it in big chunks and big waves. And that draws you in then back into your ATO or your local flying club, whatever it is, which gives you a reason to kind of maintain more regular contact with the people in the business. And again, I think that's a key element of it as well too, to keep in touch with the people, to contact them, to get feedback from your colleagues, what their experiences are, and discuss exactly what you're doing collectively. And I think it's important that you just keep as Peter used that term as well too, a finger on the pulse. I think is very important as well.
So I guess Peter, that kind of finger on the pulse thing, the whole online world and the online communities, to a certain extent, that helps you keep your finger on the pulse. But some would argue that also might provide the illusion that you're involved in aviation, but you're actually involved in an online aviation community. Does it need to reach out and touch the real world of aviation sometimes?
Oh, absolutely. No question about that. And you also need to be a little bit careful with what kind of online community that you are part of. This is why it's good to be like we were saying from AFTA here, that it's good to have your connection with your ATO that you were doing your training on. I think that is really, really crucial, because even if you are part of a larger online community, if you're flying flight sims or whatever it might be that you might be doing, and you're chatting to people over there, you still need to be in touch with the place where you learn how to fly. And they will be able, they also have, like everyone here have been saying, they have the incentive to help you. no one is going to be happier than them the day that you get your job, because that will be another little tick in their box from another pilot that has gotten employment from their school. So to utilize your ATO that you came from to the absolute maximum extent is something that I would definitely recommend. And I do think that there will be incentives to keep, from the ATO's side as well, to keep the costs as low as possible. But then the online world is good, because you're going to be in a world where people have the same passion as you do. It's likely that, providing that you choose your sources right, that you're going to get a lot of positive reinforcement. This is one of the reasons why I started Mentor Pilot in the first place, hence Mentor Pilot, that I wanted to kind of spread my love for aviation and my love for the job that I do. However, why I'm saying that you have to be careful is because if you go out to some Facebook groups right now, that are attracting pilots that have lost their employment, for example. If you're a new person going into the airline world and you get caught on a Facebook page like that or a group like that, there's a high possibility that they will tell you to just stop your dream, to not go forward. You're never going to get a job. We're all going to get the jobs before you. And you can actually find yourself in a downward spiral that's going to demotivate you a lot. But you have to realize that these kind of forums have been there throughout the history of the internet. When I started Mentor Pilot 5 years ago, as the industry was rising and more people were getting jobs, when I got in and I looked at these forums, it looked like it was the worst job in the world. And what I realized was that people that were in these forums, they were the ones that were frustrated. Now, obviously, there's a full reason for people to be frustrated, but then back then there wasn't. And the happy people, they tended not to be in the internet forums. They were out playing golf or hanging out with their friends or doing something else. So you end up with people that have an incentive to kind of bring you down. And that's why I say you have to be careful with what kind of internet forum that you get yourself into.
I think, and maybe you've noticed this as well, Karen, there are, you look online, you look at these forums, there are some people who are dealing with this adversity incredibly positively and who have maintained a really good positive outlook, and some other people who have not dealt with it perhaps so well and have become very negative and very bitter, and understandably, I'm not blaming anyone for that, but ultimately I'm not entirely convinced that they are giving themselves the best chance in the future either.
No, and I think this is something that's been mentioned a couple of times over the course of the last 2 days, as well as be really careful of your social media activity, because it's there forever. Once you've pressed that button and hit return, whatever your comment might be, it's there forever. So if you do jump on the bandwagon of some of these Facebook groups, as Petter just mentioned, think of the recruiters are going to have quite a lot more time on their hands, because the recruitment is going to be a lot slower, and so they'll be handling probably more applications, but they've got more time to look at them, so they'll be choosier as well. They'll be much choosier, so they'll have a look at your social media profile, and believe me, they will. And if they see you having had a rant about a particular airline for the way that they've handled something, or something to do with the industry, I'm afraid you will not be considered. They will have a glut of applications that they will be able to go onto and choose elsewhere. So I think don't sit in the dark just plugging away on internet. Interact with people. I think that's really important, especially if you've just done your training. You might well have come out with quite a large debt, and you're going to get into a downward spiral worrying about it all if you're not careful. So you need to have interaction with people, and the good ATOs are doing some good stuff to help with that interaction. Petter's process, his online connection is fantastic as well, and our volunteer mentors will love to be able to connect with people and just help them make decisions and think about what's next. And I think that's really important.
I think it's true. I mean, no one really wants to be in this situation. Not very many people are going to be going, great, COVID's here, look at what it's done to the industry. And really it's about how we deal with it and how we approach it, and how we can turn it, how we can approach it in the most positive way possible. Yeah. Talking of which, Nuno, a question. You're a ground school instructor, and pretty much almost every ATPL ground school cadet I've ever spoken to, when they have passed all of their 14 exams, has gone, I'm glad that's over and done with. And yet here we are going, stay up on your ATPL knowledge, make sure you retain that stuff. And I can imagine they're all going, bit of information, get back in, as it all gradually drops out. How's a fun way that those people can keep that information in their heads and keep it? I mean, what should they do? Should they go through the books again, sit some more exams? I don't know. How can they stay sharp without going through the trauma of ATPL ground school?
Well, that's actually a very good question, because it's one of my lifelong quests so far, is how to explain to students that theory is important and theory is valuable, and they actually should keep fresh and stay fresh with all the theoretical knowledge that they gain. I mean, to be fair, the TPL exams, the way they are designed right now, it is a perfectly valid thing to do, to go, phew, I'm done with that, as soon as you're done with it. The thing is, not everything in those exams should be forgotten immediately after. EASA is doing a good job. They're moving forward with the whole examination thing, but not quite there yet. Thing is, at least we in Bartolini, we have this thing. Once students actually start higher levels of training, multi-engine, IR, and so on, we actually provide them with a complete theory again. It's like, great, you have the 14 exams, you can legally start. So now let's teach you all the stuff you actually have to do. So at least for our graduates, all they have to do is come back to our online system, log in, and go through all the lessons we've prepared for them, covering all the items, especially regarding IR. IR is complicated. It's expensive to train. It's also expensive to stay current on. Luckily, for example, in the case of IR, there's a lot of stuff you can do for free. As people say, the smaller the budget, the smarter the solution needs to be. And to be fair, you will have all graduates, not just Bartolinis, from any school ever, will make friends as they go through their training. They will know people, they will know their struggles, they will go through it together. And one thing they can do is, even over the internet, it costs you nothing to grab a few plates from Jeppesen or whatever other provider you use and practice approach briefings, for example. There's a lot of knowledge that comes into an approach briefing. And if you really think about it, and if you really start asking, okay, but why is this? Why are our minimums this? Why today, I don't know, you have, it's a localizer only approach. What degradations do we have? What do we have to do? If you start going into PBN and all that other stuff, it suddenly gets really complicated really quick. You suddenly need a lot of knowledge, that first, actual practical knowledge that you will use on the line, flying every day. You know, rain checks, rain predictions, all that kind of stuff suddenly gets really complicated, and you really need to use it. Additionally, it's the kind of thing that you would be asked in an interview. So it's very easy to practice. It's incredibly simple to set up. You just talk with someone, either sitting over a coffee, a beer, or over the internet if COVID is still not allowing you to go out. And very, very easily, you keep fresh on very relevant knowledge that is actually very complicated, that you paid a lot of money to gain to begin with. Of course, on top of that, you have all the other things. You could simply just wake up in the morning, check the meter for your local airport, check the TAF, check the significant, and just see how many things do you still remember. You remember all of them? Great. Oh, I don't know this one? Just go check. Every time you see something that you don't remember, go back to the books, check it out. Okay, this is this. This symbol means that. And very easily, just putting on your daily schedule, you can stay fresh on many, many things that are relevant for daily operation.
I think there's a whole bunch of fantastic tips in there for people, and if they follow those, then that's going to go a long way to helping them stay engaged. So as you've just spoken, I'm going to we're coming to the end of this session. I'm just a fair warning. I'm going to go around everybody here and ask for just one tip for what you would say to keep people, what's the most important thing people would do between the end of their training and the beginning of their employment, whenever that may be. And then after that, we'll say thank you and goodbye, and then hopefully you'll join us again for the Q&A, which we'll be moving into shortly. So starting around, Des, you've had a while to think about it now. What's your one tip?
Yeah, keep in touch with ATO. They're, especially sim centers will be very close with airlines, and they'll have a good indication of what's happening. And see where you can help out. There might be a bit of work here and there for students. There might be some free training, etc. But keep in touch with your ATO, and that'd be my advice.
Great tip, thank you. Marios, how about you? Your top tip?
So as Philip, I think, said before, it was the key element is to keep the contact with the ATO. The good thing in this situation is too many experienced pilots, ex-students of an ATO, returned back, and they want to be close to the aviation. So they joined the ATO, and they shared their experience with the new students. They preparing them for an assessment, and they sharing their experience, which is huge. We have now too many ex-students, captains A380 from Emirates, from, I don't know, from Dubai down there, and now they are in day-to-day operation in as flight instructors, simulator instructors, MCC instructors, and they're sharing their experience. So this is most important for the new pilots.
Thank you much. Philip, are you going with staying in touch with the ATO as well?
Oh, absolutely vital. That's key. I made that comment already, that you must keep that connection going. That umbilical cord, under ordinary circumstances, would have been severed by now, and our graduates would be flying with various airlines, including our partner airlines with like Stobart and Ryanair. But as things stand at the moment, the umbilical cord is not cut. We've got to keep in contact. And remember as well, too, it's a two-way thing. Not alone are we there to support the student on a continuous basis. At the end of the day, we have to make sure that they're ready for their airline assessments eventually, because when they walk in the door to the airline for the assessment, they are our brand ambassadors. So it's up to us. Our standards, our reputations will stand or fall on how well they perform and the consistency we can develop to the airlines. So even if they may consider a flight instructor rating, which is a very extremely beneficial rating to have. But if they don't do that, at least get some, not to sit back and wait for the phone to ring or for the doorbell to knock and waiting for a job offer to come in the door. Keep busy. So it'll be part of your CV when you go to your assessment eventually. What did you do during the lockdown and the delay in job employment? Well, I did A, B, C, and D, whatever it was. Demonstrate your resilience and the determination to work and be active.
Thank you. Karen?
I'm going to pick up on that word resilience, funnily enough. I'm obviously going to suggest you get into contact with Resilient Pilot. I think I'm going to cheat a bit. I'm going to say everything that those guys say you should do, but I also say interact with people. So do that through a free service. We don't charge anything for this. There's no monetary gain. Just connect with Resilient Pilot, and then you can connect with pilots of all different experience levels to talk to them and just remain connected with the industry throughout. And I'm going to cheat really slightly as well. Gliding came up earlier today, and that struck me as just the perfect way to stay connected with the industry, keep your skills up, keep some of your theoretical knowledge up for a pretty low price by comparison. So
absolutely. Petter, you're...
All right, so
give us one thing.
Only one thing. I was going to give you
one short thing.
No, but first and foremost, stay positive, keep working. All right. Realize that anything that you do can be applied to pilot competencies. You just have to think that way. You have to realize that you not only can you ask your ATOs to help you, you need to help yourself. And in that is you stay positive and work constantly towards getting that first job, no matter how hard it might look or how hard it might feel, and keep yourself, in contact with industry. If that is via online communities like the Airline Pilot Club, like Resilient Pilot, or through your ATOs, and then just keep working. Like, you do not give up. I think it's if you just think about that and do whatever you can to keep your pilot competencies up, you are going to prevail in one way or another. It's when you give up that it's going to give up on you.
Okay, well, I think that there's a saying which is basically you can't choose your family, but in aviation you can choose your aviation family, because effectively your aviation family is your ATO, and the ATO is really important. So choose wisely, do the research, ask the questions, and make sure you choose an ATO that is a good fit for you and that will provide you not just with the training and the licenses, but the support and the continued support as well. That's important. So on that note, I'm going to wrap up this session. I'm going to thank you all very, very much. We're going to go to a quick ad, and then I believe we've got a question and answer session, but we need to get the questions back in here. So thank you very much, everyone, and hopefully see you all soon.